Hello, I am Rob Himmelstein, president of MRJ. Men of Reform Judaism is that place where intellect, vision, matter, and spirit meet. It is this place because our members recognize their obligation to our Jewish heritage and values. I know many people are still signing on, but I want to be respectful of everybody's time and keep this on schedule. We are very proud to continue our webinar series with retired Admiral Amichai Ayalon. Please note that these interviews in our webinar series can be found on the MRJ YouTube channel. Admiral Ayalon was, putting it in American terms, an Israel Navy SEAL, commander of the Navy, director of SHIN BET, a cabinet member, Knesset member, and a recipient of the Medal of Valor, a true slacker. He is also co-founder of the People's Voice Peace Initiative, and his complete bio can be found where you registered or at mrj.org, menrj.org. We're so excited to have him make time for us today. Jeff Agron is working the magic behind the scenes, and our interviewer today is Steve Portnoy, MRJ's immediate past president and currently MRJ executive director. Without further delay, I'll pass it on to Steve to start the discussion. Mr. Portnoy.
Thank you, Rob. Today's guest is, as you heard, the bona fides cannot be questioned. I would like to thank, in particular, two people, a good friend of mine, Israel Nitzan, who was formerly with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and Nadav Tamir, who is currently director of J Street in Israel, for helping us establish a relationship. I've only spoken with Ami once, but I think we've got kind of kindred spirit, and I'm gonna thank Friendly Fire. That's Ami's most recent publication, available on Amazon. It was also on our email. It changed my mind on a lot of things. And if you're open and honest, and I believe it was Dennis Ross, former ambassador, who commented on Ami's honesty and his integrity. And I think that comes across in this book. And I am really wasting time that I would like to give to Ami to talk. And we will come back to Q&A. So, Ami, without further ado.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. And frankly speaking, I think that this is a time for me to say, okay, everything is great, and do you have any question? Because it can be better after all the superlatives that I have given. But I find it very, very difficult to try to speak about Israel and to try to give you a sense of Israel today. We used to, once I remember that we have pride when we said Israel is a democracy and Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. Today, we are asking ourselves many, many questions, but it reminds me of a story. Many years ago, when I was a relatively young naval officer, I spent 1 year in the Naval War College in Newport, Rhode Island. And I had to give about 20-minute briefing of country presentation. And I said, I find it very, very difficult to try to explain you to the foreign students, Navy captains, 4,000 years of Jewish history, very, very complicated present, and unknown future. So we have 20 minutes, less now. And what I decided to do, I'll start from my beginning. I was born in the Jordan Valley 8 years ago. and my parents came from Europe, in my case, Transylvania, Dracula. And I remember I asked once my father, where he was born. He said, I was born in the Hungarian-Austrian Empire. And I'm saying it because when my father was 13 years old, he came to his father and he said, I'm not Jewish anymore. I'm Hebrew. And from now on, I will speak only Hebrew. He was a member, a very, very young member of the Zionist movement in the area. And they did not speak for 6 months. He was born in a very religious and relatively rich family out of the city. And he came as an illegal immigrant during the British Mandate. My mother came as a child to study in Jerusalem. And both of them, as they told me, it was clear to them that they will not meet their parents anymore. It was in 1938, and it was obvious that the Jewish people we will face a major. They didn't understand that what we understand today is a Holocaust, but the energy was in the air. And they came to Israel. They created a kibbutz. And by the way, if you see here in my backyard, this is the Lake of Galilee. From the photo in 1918. And this is Hatzar Kinneret. This is the place where they came from Europe. And I was born in 45, and my father left us, both of us, because he went after, it was immediately after the war, and he was responsible to bring Holocaust survivors to Israel from Hungary. He was the head of the mission, Aliyah Bet, in Hungary. And he came back to the War of Independence. So I'm saying it because I never asked my parents, what was their Zionism? It's a silly question. I believe that if I would, the answer could be, we have to come to Israel in order to save the Jewish people, because the Jewish people is facing a major problem. And the only way to try to face it is to create a state, which was a crazy idea after 2,000 years of diaspora. The Zionist movement was a small minority in Europe. Most Jews stayed in Europe and were assassinated there. And I am a generation without grandparents. I never saw an old person during my childhood. And well, I think that the concept of Zionism would be we are going to build a state, and the state will be wherever we can build a settlement and work the land. So it was based on 2 pillars, settlements and security. When we trying to understand the concept of settlements, we have to understand it didn't start after the Six-Day War. It started with the beginning of Zionism, the Labour Party, because in order to create a settlement and work the land and defend ourselves, so security and settlements. The tragedy is that this concept brought me to volunteer to the Naval Commando, what you call SEALs, and the idea was to do it for 4 years and then to go back to the kibbutz. And I found myself retiring from the Navy, as a commander of the Navy, after 34 years because I finished my 4 years exactly during the Six-Day War, and then the War of Attrition and all the wars later, and we felt that the whole security of our country is on our very, very narrow shoulders. And I retired in January 95, 1 month after the assassination of our Prime Minister, Yitzhak Rabin. In retrospect, the way I see myself today, I understand that the assassination of Rabin was a major change in the course of my life. 1 year before, Rabin asked me to accept the position of the director of the SHIN BET, and I refused. And I asked myself every day what would have happened, but I have no answer. But after the assassination, when I retired, Shimon Peres, who replaced him, asked me the same request, and I couldn't refuse, and I did it for almost 4.5 years. Now, all what I told you is important only because what I'm telling you now, the way I understand the Middle East, the Israeli people, the concept of Judaism and democracy, our neighbors, Palestinians, Egyptians, is a result of these 4.5 years. What I learned in the SHIN BET, I suddenly saw a different reality. First of all, I came to the SHIN BET after the assassination, and the idea that a Jewish terrorist will assassinate our prime minister was something that none of us could believe. And I think that it was a major, major moment for all my generation. And by the way, again, in retrospect, when I think, why did I refuse? And why I was so angry when Rabin asked me this request of being the director of the SHIN BET, because the SHIN BET, the enemies that we are trying to see are our own people. And I couldn't live with the idea that I will see a potential enemy in every Israeli or Jewish citizen. I learned 2 major lessons during this almost 4.5 years. One is that my enemies are not targets, they are human beings. When I said it to my wife, she laughed. She said that, you are crazy. So what is new about it? And today I know that when you are a warrior, a soldier, a commander, and you go to the battlefield, you send us to the battlefield in order to kill the enemy. If you want to negotiate, you send diplomats. And you will find it in all the military writings. Military commanders see the enemy as something that we have to destroy. And as a soldier, as a warrior, we do not ask why. We ask only a very different question. We ask how to kill him. And everything is strategy, tactics, technology. When you come to the SHIN BET, you understand that you have to understand the enemy. I'm not proud of it. I killed many people, but I knew nothing about them. I didn't know their names, their wives, families, children with whom they pray in the mosque. I couldn't care less. I didn't need it in order to kill them. When you are in a SHIN BET, you have to understand your enemy, because otherwise you cannot fight and you will never win this war. In order to recruit him as an agent, in order to interrogate him, in order to understand why he is using terror, why he is killing our people. This is the major question. So instead of asking how, when you come to the SHIN BET, you have to ask why. Once you try to achieve all this information, you have to know, for example, it's a major question to which school he wants to send his children. There is a major difference in the ideology of parents who want to send their children to Hamas schools, which is a fundamental radical Muslim ideology, or to Palestinian Authority school, which is much more pragmatic. And the sense or the Islam, the concept of Islam is totally different. So once you know so much about him, he's becoming a human being. And you are not afraid of him. Even if you know that he will go on to kill Israeli citizens. You understand why. And the second lesson, which is not less important, I came to believe that we, Israel, we shall have, we shall have peace only when Palestinians will have hope. So hope is a security asset. And this is something that most Israelis did not serve in the SHIN BET, cannot accept. Israelis today believe that all Palestinians are Hamas. They do not understand Palestinians because today all the Israelis, and the tragedy is that all our political leaders see Hamas in the eyes of the military commanders. They are enemies, they want to kill us, they are targets. Military is the only language, military power is the only language that we speak in Israel today. And so Israelis tell me, my friends tell me, oh, you know nothing about it. You know, it's very, very deep in Islam and in the history of Islam. And I said, well, the suicide attacks, it's the jihad. So I said, no, you are wrong. The first suicide attack in the written history is in the Bible. All of us know the story of Samson. The story of Samson is the first suicide attack in the human written history, because he was humiliated and he came to believe that he has nothing to lose. Now, when you bring a person, a community, or a people to a place in which they believe that they have nothing to lose, you cannot deter them. Deterrence does not exist. Deterrence is an equation. If you can not take anything from him, and he's becoming a very, very dangerous person and a very, very dangerous enemy. And this is exactly what we see when we try to understand Palestinians today. We Israelis, we see Palestinians as people, but we do not see them as a people. And they came to believe, and I have no idea when, I'm not a historian, but I know that today Palestinians are ready to die, not only in order to bring bread to their children. They are fighting for the freedom and for the self-determination as a people, as a nation. And today we have only two options: to divide this piece of land between two people trying to persuade both that, we believe that the land of Israel is ours. They believe that the land of Palestine is theirs. And if we shall not share this piece of land, we shall not preserve our identity as a Jewish democracy, because we will not be a majority. And if we are not majority, we do not have the right and we do not have the power to dictate the culture, the language, the calendar, the way we celebrate our holidays. And so it will not be a democracy, it will not be a Jewish identity. And let me assure you that it will be an ongoing battle, because we know it during the 30s of the 20th century. This is exactly what happened. Jews killed Arabs, Arabs killed Jews, and the British mandate was very, very weak. And this is what we are facing today. But let me finish by saying that if I have to explain the reality after the 7th of October, which was a day or a week of horror, we never faced this level of violence, and we couldn't imagine the violence, the slaughtering, or everything was explained. And but today we are fighting in 8 fronts, and if I have to prioritize, I think that the major threat to Israel today. By the way, I'm going back to the presentation. Stephen said that I wrote a book, Friendly Fire, but the subtitle is How Israel Became Its Worst Enemy and Its Hope for the Future. And it was translated to many languages. I think that in Israel, not many people read this book because it's a very difficult book to the Israeli people. We are sending our youngsters to war. My grandson is in Gaza today. 2 of my 3 sons are still doing their reserve duty, and it's very, very difficult to send your child or grandchild to the battlefield on one hand, and to tell him that he is fighting a war which is not a just war. And in a way, the war that we are fighting today is in order to expand our border, to build more settlements, and to deny the option from the Palestinians for self-determination and to build a state alongside of Israel. It was a just war, by the way, until 2002, when the Arabs, all the Arab League members, came to us in Beirut, telling us, okay, you won. And we accept when they signed on the Arab Peace Initiative. And on the Arab Peace Initiative, they wrote that we recognize Israel along the borders of the international border, Green Line. We even accept exchange of territories to make sure that 80% of the settlers will not have to be removed. Later, they even were ready to discuss the future of the settlers that will decide that they prefer to live on the land of Israel in Palestine. And none of our government were ready to discuss the Arab Peace Initiative. So the war of today is a very problematic war. And on one hand, yes, after the 7th of October, we did not have any choice. And we did exactly what we had to do. But during the last year, the last 10 months, it's a war with no political goal. We understand today that this war will not bring back the hostages, and this war will not defeat Hamas, because in order to defeat Hamas, you have to defeat not only his military power in the battlefield, but you have to beat or to defeat his ideology. And in order to defeat an ideology, we have to present a better ideology, a political horizon. Anyhow, it's a very, very problematic present and very, very problematic future, because the major threat is a threat to our democracy. We had the military power in order to face all our enemies, even Iran, and of course all our closer enemies. But if we do not agree, what do we mean when we say Jewish democracy? So to think that we can live together especially after the last decision of the government to fire all the gatekeepers and to try to destroy the legal system, the legal branch. Everything starts on the definition. When we say a Jewish democracy, what do we mean? My democracy is not the democracy of Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, and it is not a democracy of Jewish supremacy and racism. We have many rabbis. I used to give Rabbi Jonathan Sachs or many rabbis in Israel, and who believe that our Jewish identity is totally different. And last, I'm speaking to you, and not because you asked, because I think that you have a major role in our future in Israel. We are living here, and in a way, I think that we are living too close to the events, too close to the terror, and we hate all our neighbors, and we see all of them as enemies or potential enemies. And we are sure that everybody who do not agree to the Israeli policy, which is a government policy, he is anti-Semitic. And the idea that most of the world, and I know about all the leaders of the world, accept the framework of two states, we do not see it. Because we do not understand that most of the states, countries, people of the world, they can identify with Israel. If Israel really will be a Jewish democracy and will be able to live side by side to a Palestinian state. Today it is a dream, but I remind myself that the Zionist movement started as a dream, and Herzl told us that yes, we have the power to fulfill our dreams. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ami. There's a lot to follow up there. So I want to go back a little bit to a couple of things I have to say I was not aware of. And I've been following Israeli issues fairly closely for quite some time. And there was a chapter in your book called The King's Torah.
Yes, chapter 10, number 10.
Chapter 10, yes. And
Yes,
you
right.
speak about Rabbi Yitzhak Shapira.
Right.
The ideology that he expressed, and I will ask you to paraphrase it rather than myself, is that still the prevalent attitude amongst ultra-Orthodox? First, we have to define what his attitude was.
No, okay. Well, first of all, the term Orthodox is used when we discuss, the Haredim, and it's a totally different issue. They do not go to war, so they don't read, the history of the Hebrew law when it comes to the war, and all of us know the name of Amalek. Tried to kill or to fight against Israel when we came from the desert to the land of Israel, and the concept of a holy war. Now, according to, by the way, I have to remind you or to tell you, Rabbi Shapira present an ideology or wrote a book in which he presented an ideology which is accepted on Smotrich and Ben-Gvir, and it is parallel to what Rabbi Kahana used to believe, that when it comes to war, you have the right to kill everybody, including women, innocent people, and sometimes even to kill children who still are drinking or sucking the milk from the mothers, because it is clear that they will be terrorists in the future. Now, when I wrote the book, since I do not follow, I go to synagogue three times a year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Simchat Torah. I'm saying it because I wanted to make sure that I'm not doing any mistake. So I sent it to, I don't know if you know the name, it's Professor Halbertal. He teaches in the Hebrew University and in Columbia University. He's a great philosopher, a religious person. And to my friend, Professor Ishai Ber. So they wrote me, Ishai Ber said, told me, don't publish this chapter, because people will think that, Israelis believe in these radical ideas. And I said, okay, unfortunately, I knew Rabbi Shapira when I was the director of the SHIN BET. And he was a rabbi of many settlers. And the violence of the settlers that we see today, by the way, in Israel, it is a blind spot. Nobody speaks about the West Bank, and nobody speaks about the violence between innocent Palestinians and the settlers. And I knew his radical ideas. So I said, Ishai, I will publish it because I'm trying to give, the whole rainbow of views, ideologies, and cultures that represent the society of Israel. Today, unfortunately, this ideology is much more influential. And unfortunately, I cannot blame soldiers in time of war, but what we see in Gaza is something that I find it very, very difficult to defend. And some of it is, we are fighting in the most difficult battlefield, when you cannot identify who is a soldier and who is not. But on the other hand, yes, there are many commanders and soldiers who believe in Rabbi Shapira ideology, and unfortunately, they are fighting in Gaza.
So just to be clear, Rabbi Shapir's ideology is that thou shalt not kill applies only to Jews.
Right, exactly.
Okay. Let's jump back to the present. Shin Bet,
Yes.
Ronen Bar. Seem to be two schools of thought on why he was fired. One, the investigations, I believe it's come to be known as Cuttergate, which really has not gotten very much traction, as we would say in United States news circles. And the other reason seems to be that he should be scapegoated for October 7th. Both valid, neither valid?
No, well, both valid because, Israel is divided, and many Israelis believe that he should be fired immediately because he is one of the people that he had to take responsibility on the failure, the intelligence failure of the 7th of October, which he did, by the way. He took responsibility, and he's saying even today, I should resign, but I cannot resign until. Now, the question when he will resign is much more complicated, because I said almost nothing discussing the political reality in Israel. I just gave a speech this morning in Jerusalem, and many people in Israel believe that we are facing a civil war. And what happened during the last 2 years since our prime minister is sitting in jail, in the court, and trying to defend himself, and it's okay. The idea that he is 1 or 2 days a week or 3 days a week, he's spending in the court, and the other days he is the prime minister, is a crazy idea. And 70% of the Israelis today, 70%, which means that it is not a question of left or right, or Likud or Labor, whatever. Majority of the Israelis believe that his decisions are political, personal decisions, and not for the sake of the future of Israel. And we have to understand that Ronen should resign, but the idea is that the prime minister, who is responsible to the policy that led to this crisis, because he led the policy for the last 15 years, in which he said Hamas is an asset. Hamas is an asset because for him, empowering Hamas was the only way not to negotiate with the Palestinians. Because if Palestinians will have a unified leadership, so it is obvious that the world will create a pressure on all of us to negotiate. Now, in order to make sure that we shall not be able to negotiate, okay, it's divide and control. He made sure that Hamas will stay in power in Gaza. In order to do it, by the way, he had to ask Qatar to send $1.5 billion to make sure that they will survive, because they are, controlling 2 million people, etc., etc. And he did everything in order to make sure that Hamas will survive, meaning every time when, for example, the director of the Shin Bet or the general chief of staff came to him and said, okay, we have to attack them because it is a fundamental terrorist organization with a very powerful military wing. He refused. He refused because he wanted them to stay in power. So everything is very, very complicated. And today, if he will decide who will be the director of the Shin Bet, it is obvious that the director of the Shin Bet will be a person who will make sure that Netanyahu will stay in power, because this is the only parameter that he cares. And the specific case of the which Ronen is very, very worried, and he's right. There is a major difference. People don't think about it too much, but there is a major difference between internal security, or Shin Bet, in a democracy, and Shin Bet in a totalitarian regime. In a totalitarian regime, the Shin Bet is the guardian of the king, of the government, of the administration. In a democracy, the Shin Bet is within tension. On one hand, yes, they are nominated by the government, but they are responsible for the survival of the democracy as a democracy. Now, we know even from the Bible that our prophets, Moses and later Shmuel, told us that we should not have a king, because a king will always dream in order to achieve more power. And the prophet was a person who made sure or reminded him that he should not pass, or he is doing something wrong against the law, etc., etc. So the problem is not resignation of Ronen, but who will nominate his successor. And Netanyahu cannot do it. He do not accept it. And this is, by the way, the problem that we faced last week, because he fired him against the decision of the legal system. So, you know, when we say a legal crisis, we are facing probably in the next few days.
Well, welcome to the club on that one.
Yeah, but yes, I understand your remark, but I have to remind you, I do not admire the American democracy today, but you do not have an external enemy as close and powerful as we. So when we combine both of them, so I think that our problem is, we are closer to this
It's
crisis.
more acute, absolutely. I have not seen, but I have heard some from friends in Israel and here in the diaspora, the latest incursion action in Gaza, that there was a list of Hamas members to be terminated, and that list was primarily composed of non-combatants. They were government officials. Is that so?
Yeah, it is, but we have to understand, by the way, if you understand the law of war, which are not quite applicable to the war against terror, when you have a terror organization that came to power and the political leader, he is the commander of the military wing, so even according to the international law, he does not have the legal defense. You can kill him in order to win the war. So it's not a legal problem. The problem is that we killed all their leaders. And in a way, the idea that in order to defeat Hamas, we have to kill all of them is nonsense, because, you know, Hamas, it's not all of them, it's not an exact organization the way we understand a military organization. They recruit youngsters, and yesterday he was a child in a school, and today, you know, you will meet him in the battlefield. And second, Hamas is an ideology. And in the old wars that was created, the theoretical framework was created during the 19th century by Clausewitz. We used to think that if we shall achieve a military decision in the battlefield, so they will surrender, and okay, then we shall discuss the future peace. And we shall dictate, because we achieved a military decision. It is over. A terror organization will not raise a white flag. So the idea to achieve a military decision and then to create a better political horizon is nonsense. Now, when we went to war, and I said it after one day, when we went to war after 1 week, after the 7th of October, the Israeli government did not publish any political goal. We sent the military with military goals, which were to dismantle the military power of Hamas, as Adin al-Qassam, and to deport or to kill all their political leaders. And we achieved everything. But unless it was clear from day one that we shall achieve the military objectives, and we shall create a chaos. Once you do not know what to do or how to fill this chaos. So this is exactly what we see today. Instead of bringing international community or Palestinian Authority, or instead of discussing the day after, I said, when you send your military to war without a clear, definition of the day after, which in a way, this is a definition of victory. The idea is not to kill everybody. The idea is to use the military power in order to create a better military reality. Now, once you are not doing, I know exactly what is happening. The war becomes the end and not the mean in order to achieve, because there is no political goal. And this is exactly what we see. And the way most Israelis, 70% of the Israelis believe that we are not publishing or we are not presenting a clear political goal because this government do not want to end the war. Because it is clear that once this war is over, the coalition will not exist. Because the major conditions of Smotrich and Ben Gvir to stay in the coalition is to go on with the war and to create settlements in Gaza and to annex the West Bank. Otherwise, if this is not the goals, they will not stay. So this government is paralyzed when it comes to present us a better future. And we are sending our children to war.
Oh, I want to take you back, and you mentioned, and you probably told me what chapter it is. Hope is a security asset.
Yes, okay.
And there's a conversation that you had with Dr. Siraj, where you start off and you're saying, good to finally meet you. Likewise, though I won't conceal my disappointment with you. Do you recall when you said, I would be happy to congratulate you?
Yes.
What was the follow-up?
Well, first of all, he said something. It was during the beginning of the Intifada, and many, I think that on 100 Palestinians that lost their life, one Israeli. So the portion was unbelievable. And he came to me, and by the way, he's a psychiatrist. He used to work with children, post-traumatic children in Gaza. And as a result of the reality in Gaza, the war, etc., humiliation. And he said, Ami, finally we won. I said, what do you mean you won? He said, yes, we won in the battlefield. I said, you are crazy. You are losing your people. You will lose your dream. And he said, Ami, you don't understand us, because victory for us is to see you suffer. Finally, after 70 years, we are not the only one who suffer in the Middle East. And this is victory for us. And I was so furious, so angry. So I went back to the table. It was in London. We were invited by the London School of Economics, and I asked the moderator, Professor Mary Kaldor, to discuss the essence of victory in the Middle East. And of course, we did not come to any agreement. But yes, later I met then Professor Saino Seiba. He's a Palestinian philosopher. He was the president of Likud University. And we launched an initiative. So the follow-up, in a way, was I came back and I said, I have to try to understand again what is the essence of victory in the war against terror. And I wrote many books about it, or many articles, not books. And this is not what we are going to discuss now. But yes, we launched an initiative trying to present a better future, which is very, very similar by the Geneva Initiative, Clinton parameters. And until today, I think that my dream is that Israelis will see that this is the only option that we have, and especially after 2002, when the Arab League, we tend to forget that after the Six-Day War, all the Arab League members met in Khartoum. And after this humiliated defeat, 67, they came with three no's: no to recognition, no to negotiation, and no to peace with Israel. Now, it took many years, since 67 until 2002. In 2002, they are coming to us, telling us three yes. Yes to recognition, yes to negotiation, yes to peace with Israel as a legitimate player among the states in the Middle East, on the condition that Israel will accept all the UN resolutions and the Security Council resolution, which we signed, which we accepted. So this, my definition is that yes, after so many years, we won this war, but we refuse to see or to recognize our victory. Because I came to believe that it is, people ask me, why can't you see? And my explanation is, I remember it took me 20 years from the Six-Day War until the First Intifada. Because I told you earlier, my definition of Zionism was, this land is ours. And the only way to create a state is to build settlement, work the land, and defend ourselves. And I did not see Palestinians as a people. Only when I came to the Shin Bet. So I think that, yes, I'm trying to explain it to foreigners. I think that to Jews it will be much easier. We are dreaming, and we have a great dream of greater Israel from the Jordan, our parents, from the Jordan to the sea, and it will be a Jewish state, etc., etc. And now okay, this is the end of the dream, and we are awakening, and the awakening process, we see the reality. And the reality is painful. And we have to understand that we have to divide this piece of land. And I think that until today, we did not have the power, really, to divide this piece of land.
In the time we have left, two questions. How is the state of anti-Semitism in the United States seen? And with the WZC elections coming up, what do you see the role of Jews in the diaspora to be?
Well, I will try, and I'll do it very, very carefully, because I'm not in a position to understand the anti-Semitism in the States. But I remind myself, as a child, by the way, it was the first time when I understood the concept, because I spent 2.5 years in Argentina. My father, was part of the Eichmann. The capture of the Nazi commander, anyhow. So and I was beaten for the first time as a 14 years old person, because people did not like this Zionist movement in Buenos Aires, especially after what we did to Eichmann. I'm saying it because today I believe that we are living in a very, very strange. Israel was created in order to secure the Jewish people, a safe haven. It's to make sure that every Jew who feel he is afraid, he can come to Israel. And since, by the way, the Amia building, in Buenos Aires. I understand that all of you know this terror event. I came to believe that we cannot separate between anti-Israeli feelings and anti-Semitism. I saw it twice. Once when I was 14 years old, when we kidnapped an Argentinian citizen with German origin, and it was, to humiliate the Argentinian people, and the level of anti-Semitism grew dramatically, and I faced it physically. And later, when we killed a Amal, and later became Hezbollah terrorist in South Lebanon, and the reaction was in Buenos Aires, destroying our embassy, and 2 years later, destroying Amia building, and I think that 86 or 89 people, most of them Jews, died, and probably many of them were not Zionists. They paid the price of what we did in Israel. So we cannot separate between anti-Israeli feelings, what we are doing to Lebanese, to Palestinians, and anti-Jewish feelings, anti-Semitism. And I can prove it. During the 90s, when we tried during Oslo, the level of anti-Semitism worldwide was much lower. And I remember when Rabin came to America, to the UN, dozens of leaders were waiting to shake his hand. And again, and anti-Semitism was much different. So first of all, we have to recognize that when we say we responsible for each other, Bnei Israel Arevim Ze Lazeh, we not necessarily like it, but you are paying the price, some of it. Well, anti-Semitism is much deeper, but some of it, we are responsible. And let me tell you something that I think that most Americans that I met, when I met Jewish communities, what you say to us is very, very important. Because I said something and I didn't finish what I started. It's Israel is a very, very strange phenomenon. Israel is the only country that you can be a citizen only because you were born Jewish. So Israel belong to people who are not its citizens. Israel belongs to you. The idea of a Jewish state is a very, very different than any other state. And I know that you care about Israel, but during the last 10 years, when I met in universities Jewish students, many of them came to me and they said, we cannot identify with what you are doing against the Palestinians. And I cannot blame them. And it is very, very important for us to hear your voice, because we cannot blame you of anti-Semitism. We know that you care about Israel. And we know that when you tell us that we are wrong, that our policy should be changed, it is not because you hate us. You do not hate us. You show us a way. We are living too close. We feel the pain every time when a bus is, etc., etc. And we hate, and we are looking for revenge. It is very, very important for us to hear your voice, because we know that you care, and you are doing it not because you cannot identify with Israel. So I think that you have the power to influence even on our policy in Israel. Please do it.
I have one last question. Will you come back and talk to us again? This has been
Yes, okay.
a truly edifying conversation, and I feel as if we've just scratched the surface.
Okay. Well, first of all, the answer is yes, because I see it as my privilege and duty. I'm not trying to flatter. I really believe that I need you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And to everybody watching, just a last reminder, it's not an easy read, but I think it's something that you probably should read. Friendly Fire, it's on Amazon, and it's also a link on our homepage, MRJ.org. And with that,
Thank you very much.
thank you.